Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2013 film Prisoners, directed by Denis Villeneuve. This film stars Hugh Jackman, Jake Gyllenhaal, Terrence Howard, Dave Dalmatian, Paul Dano, and Viola Davis. Now I don't want to talk too much about spoilers, I'm not going to talk about the ending, but I do want to give a basic plot outline. Basically, Hugh Jackman and Terrence Howard's characters, they both have daughters that are around the same age and they're friends. And they go out one day to go find a whistle that one of them had lost or something. They basically just go out doing what little girls do, go and hang out and explore and just, be little kids. And they end up going missing. Hugh Jackman's character just kind of starts to go completely nuts. He ends up kidnapping the person that he thinks is responsible, which is played by Paul Dano, who I've talked about before in my There Will Be Blood video. The thing about Paul Dano, like I've said before, is he's one of my favorite actors. I mean, it's incredible what he can do and the range that he has. Usually I feel like he plays more like soft-spoken kind of people, and in this film, he plays a mostly non-verbal character, but the way that Hugh Jackman's character tortures Paul Dano's character is really, really brutal. And Paul Dano, gets beaten and tortured to the point where he looks basically unrecognizable. And it's funny because there's this film called City Island. It's a comedy. In the film, this character is taking an acting class, and the person who is coaching the acting class is played by Alan Arkin, who is a classic, one of the most renowned actors of all time. And there's a joke that he says during the acting class where he talks about how pausing in scenes and just having dead air with no dialogue is a waste of time. And I remember seeing it when I was probably 17 or 18, and so I kind of took on that mindset. I didn't realize that it was a joke. So now I'm starting to realize, I'm not starting to realize, but as time has gone on and as I've gotten older, I've started to realize the value of silence in film. And Paul Dano's character doesn't really say a whole lot, but the look in his eye, the makeup, all of that is really, really well done. And it was pretty brutal. I wasn't really expecting it to be as brutal as it was, but I loved it. I thought it was really entertaining. I thought it was well done. I was really glad that it wasn't just a bunch of CGI bullcrap like we see all the time these days. Now, like I've said before, the cast in this film is just great, you could have someone like Uwe Boll or Roger Corman direct a film with Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal and Paul Dano in it, and it would somehow still be incredible. I don't know how you could put those three men together and make something crappy. So it was great. I think a lot of time in film, people think that if you're loud and if you can scream, then it makes you a good actor, but that's kind of bullcrap. But Hugh Jackman does really well in this film. I felt like he did really well at being aggressive and a grieving father who is angry without overacting and without overdoing it. I felt like he walked that line pretty perfectly, even though he was really, really aggressive. And I remember there was this part where he had this hammer and he acted like he was going to smash Paul Dano's fingers, but he ends up smashing the sink right next to where his fingers are, and you can tell that Paul Dano is legitimately freaked out, dude, I hope that Hugh does not actually break my fingers right now. But it's the kind of acting that you can't go wrong with, and I think that in some of the films I've seen with Denis Villeneuve, like Ryan Gosling, I feel like he's kind of more of a prop than an actor, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Timothée Chalamet is great, but I feel like his Paul Atreides in Dune was a little stale, especially compared to the book. But you know, there's going to be more to come with that. But I felt like the characters in this film were great. The acting was great, and I can't pronounce the name of the guy that wrote the film, but I feel like he did a really good job writing these characters and really making them dynamic. You know, I remember in writing class in high school we learned about static. They call them static and dynamic characters, or flat and dynamic characters. And static and flat characters are basically characters that have no arc. Nothing really happens to them. Nothing changes. They don't change as a person. Their morals don't change. They don't learn anything. And then dynamic characters are ones that, you know, are fleshed out, that have a character arc, that have things happen to them, and because of those things, and because of the choices they make, they end up changing. You know, it's called a character arc. And I felt like in this film, you know, there were a lot more dynamic characters than in some of Denis' other films that I've seen. You know, for me, I love character-driven dramas with great dialogue and great performances. I would much rather see that than stuff explode. You know, I live in the desert. I could easily go buy a propane tank and get a friend with a gun and go blow it up in the desert, I guess. You know? But something I wouldn't be able to do is, you know, get a group of amazing actors and a script and filmmakers that know exactly what they're doing and make a film with incredible performances. That's definitely something that I wouldn't be able to do. And so I much prefer films like that. Don't get me wrong, there's plenty of action films that I love. Jurassic Park is one of my favorite films ever. I think Titanic is fantastic. You know, Terminator, Matrix, there are definitely, Apocalypse Now, Full Metal Jacket, there are definitely plenty of, you know, action films that I do love, but at the end of the day I prefer, you know, a character-driven drama, especially one like this that, you know, can get pretty intense and has some pretty heavy themes. One of the criticisms I am going to give to this film is I didn't really like the ending. I don't know. I mean, it was fine. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I will say that when it comes to films like this that are kind of intense, I don't, like for example, in Get Out, and this is going to be spoilers for the film Get Out. You know, the main character was about to have his brain implanted into this old blind man, and he would have like had semi-consciousness for the rest of his life, and it was just a total nightmare. And then all of a sudden he breaks free and just starts killing all the people that are holding him captive, and then gets away. And it's like, okay, so you were going for something that was absolutely terrifying, that I've never really seen in a film before, but then the dude just gets away and everything is okay. Like, why? It would have been so much scarier if the film would have ended with the dude's brain in the other guy's body and him just like maybe sitting there with his eyes open or like falling into the empty space or something. It's like, why did he have to get away? Like, the film was terrifying. And then it's almost like Hollywood like makes these people have happy endings, and I don't like that. Obviously with some films that's totally fine. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with a happy ending, but with like a horror film, like a film that's supposed to be disturbing, I don't want everyone to get away in the end. I feel like that kind of defeats the purpose. Not in this sense. I feel like it kind of did Get Out though. I feel like it honestly kind of ruined the whole thing. But with Prisoners, it wasn't that bad. It didn't really like bother me. I would have changed the ending personally, but I thought that it was a great film either way. You know, especially the acting and the cinematography. I thought that all that was really well done, and it was interesting to see a film that was a totally different style from Denis Villeneuve. Really hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't seen it, go ahead and watch Prisoners. I watched it on Netflix. I thought that it was a great film. I'd probably give it a 7.8 out of 10. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like the video for more content about film.